They say that love is blind, but betrayal has perfect vision. My name is Robert Mitchell, and this is the story of how I discovered that my perfect marriage was built on lies, and how I used those same lies to orchestrate the most satisfying revenge of my life. I'm 42 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I was living the American dream. I had what everyone considered the perfect marriage to my beautiful wife, Catherine, in our perfect suburban home in Westchester County. We'd been married for 12 years, and from the outside, we looked like the couple that everyone envied. Successful, attractive, and seemingly devoted to each other. Catherine was everything I'd ever wanted in a wife. She was stunning, with the kind of natural beauty that turned heads wherever we went. She was intelligent, charming, and had an infectious laugh that could light up any room. She came from a wealthy family. Her father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships, and she'd never had to work a day in her life. Instead, she devoted herself to being the perfect wife and homemaker. Our life together was like something out of a magazine. We lived in a beautiful colonial house with perfectly manicured gardens that Catherine tended herself. She was an amazing cook who could prepare elaborate dinner parties for my business associates or intimate meals for just the two of us. She was involved in all the right charities, belonged to the country club, and seemed to genuinely enjoy the role of being Mrs. Robert Mitchell. I had built a successful consulting business that allowed us to live very comfortably. While I worked long hours building my company, Catherine managed our social life, our home, and our finances with the efficiency of a professional manager. She handled everything from our investment portfolio to our vacation planning, and she did it all with a smile and an attention to detail that amazed me. We didn't have children. Catherine had suffered 2 miscarriages early in our marriage, and we decided not to keep trying. Instead, we poured our energy into each other, our home, and our social circle. We traveled extensively, entertained frequently, and seemed to have the kind of marriage that other couples aspired to achieve. But what I didn't realize was that Catherine's perfection was hiding the most devastating betrayal I could have imagined. The first sign that something was wrong came during what should have been one of the happiest times of our marriage. We were planning our 12th anniversary celebration, a 3-week trip to Europe that Catherine had been organizing for months. She'd researched every hotel, every restaurant, every museum we would visit. She'd even been taking Italian lessons so she could communicate better during our time in Tuscany. But as our departure date approached, Catherine seemed increasingly distracted and anxious. She would spend hours on her phone, claiming she was finalizing details for our trip, but she would always take these calls in private. She started going out more frequently for what she called pre-trip shopping, but she rarely came home with any packages. More troubling was the change in our physical relationship. Catherine had always been affectionate and passionate, but suddenly she seemed distant and distracted even during our most intimate moments. When I tried to talk to her about it, she blamed stress about the trip and promised that everything would be perfect once we were in Europe. But the breakthrough came 3 days before we were supposed to leave for our anniversary trip. I was looking for our passports in Catherine's desk drawer when I found something that made my blood run cold. Hidden beneath some travel documents was a second phone that I'd never seen before. It was an expensive smartphone, fully charged, and when I turned it on, I discovered a world that shattered everything I thought I knew about my wife. The phone contained hundreds of text messages, photos, and emails between Catherine and someone named Marcus Donovan. The messages revealed that they'd been having an affair for over 8 months, and the content was so explicit and intimate that it made me physically sick to read. But what made the betrayal even more devastating was the context of their relationship. Marcus wasn't some random stranger. He was the husband of Catherine's best friend, Jennifer. The 4 of us had been close friends for years. We'd vacationed together, celebrated holidays together, and I'd considered Marcus one of my closest friends. The messages revealed that Catherine and Marcus had been meeting regularly while Jennifer and I were at work. They'd been using our home, their home, and hotel rooms for their encounters. They'd been lying to both Jennifer and me for months, creating elaborate stories about shopping trips, spa days, and charity events to cover their affair. But the most crushing discovery was yet to come. As I read through more of their correspondence, I realized that Catherine and Marcus weren't just having a physical affair. They were planning to leave their spouses and start a new life together. They'd been discussing divorce strategies, financial arrangements, and even where they would live after they left Jennifer and me. The European anniversary trip that Catherine had been planning so meticulously wasn't meant to be a celebration of our marriage. It was meant to be her farewell tour before she destroyed our life together. She was planning to ask for a divorce immediately after we returned from Europe, using the trip as a final gesture before she broke my heart. But what made the betrayal even more personal was how they talked about Jennifer and me in their messages. Marcus referred to me as Bob the Builder, mocking my consulting business and suggesting that I was too boring and predictable to keep Catherine interested. Catherine called me Robert the Robot, claiming that I was so focused on routine and stability that I'd never notice what was happening right under my nose. They were planning to take advantage of the trust that Jennifer and I had placed in them, using our friendships as cover for their affair while they planned to abandon us both for their new life together. That's when I realized that if Catherine wanted to play games with trust and deception, I was going to show her what a real master of manipulation could accomplish. I spent the next 2 days conducting the most thorough investigation of my life, using every resource at my disposal to uncover the full scope of Catherine and Marcus's betrayal. I hired a private investigator to document their activities, installed hidden cameras in our home to record their encounters, and began building a comprehensive case that would expose their affair in the most devastating way possible. I discovered that Catherine and Marcus had been incredibly reckless in their affair. They'd been meeting at expensive hotels and charging the rooms to credit cards that their spouses had access to. They'd been taking photos and videos of their encounters and storing them on cloud accounts that could be traced. They'd even been planning their post-divorce life using email accounts that left digital trails of their intentions. More importantly, I discovered that Catherine had been systematically preparing to divorce me in a way that would maximize her financial benefit while minimizing mine. She'd been moving money from our joint accounts into accounts that only she controlled. She'd been consulting with divorce attorneys and getting appraisals on our home and assets. She'd been building a case that would portray me as an inattentive husband who had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. But Catherine and Marcus had made a critical error in their planning. They had underestimated my intelligence, my resourcefulness, and my understanding of the people in our social circle. They thought they could manipulate Jennifer and me because we trusted them, but they didn't realize that trust works both ways, and when it's broken, it can be weaponized. I decided to let Catherine go through with our European anniversary trip while I finalized my plans for the most comprehensive revenge I could devise. I wanted her to believe that her deception was working, that I was the oblivious husband she thought I was, right up until the moment I revealed that I knew everything. The trip to Europe was surreal. Catherine played the role of the loving wife perfectly, taking photos of us at romantic locations, posting them on social media with captions about how much she loved me, and even being more physically affectionate than she'd been in months. But I knew it was all performance, and I played my part as the grateful, unsuspecting husband while I finalized the details of my revenge. While we were in Tuscany, I received confirmation from my private investigator that he'd gathered all the evidence I needed. While we were touring the Louvre in Paris, I received word from my attorney that all the legal documents were prepared. While we were having dinner at a romantic restaurant in Rome, I was secretly coordinating the timing of the most devastating revelation I could imagine. The confrontation came the day after we returned from our trip. Catherine was expecting to have a few days to process our wonderful vacation before she asked for a divorce. She was planning to meet with her attorney that week to finalize her divorce strategy. She was expecting to control the narrative and the timing of our separation. Instead, I invited Marcus and Jennifer over for dinner to share photos from our trip and catch up on what we'd missed while we were away. The evening started normally. Catherine prepared one of her elaborate meals, and we all sat around our dining room table looking like the perfect group of friends. Catherine and Marcus were careful not to make eye contact or show any signs of their relationship, but I could see the tension between them as they tried to act normal. After dinner, I suggested we all move to the living room to look at photos from our trip. I set up our large-screen TV and began showing pictures from Europe, narrating our adventures and thanking Catherine for planning such a wonderful anniversary celebration. Then, without warning, I switched from our vacation photos to a very different kind of slideshow. The screen filled with photos and videos that my private investigator had taken of Catherine and Marcus during their affair. hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and credit card statements that documented their secret meetings. Screenshots of their text messages and emails planning their affair and their future together. The room fell completely silent as the evidence of their betrayal played out on our television screen. Catherine went white as a sheet. Marcus looked like he was going to be sick, and Jennifer stared at the screen in shock and disbelief. But I wasn't finished. I had also prepared copies of all the evidence for Jennifer, along with contact information for the best divorce attorney in the county and documentation of Marcus's financial assets that would help her in her divorce proceedings. I had prepared a comprehensive dossier of Catherine's financial manipulations and her plans to defraud me in our divorce. More importantly, I had already contacted everyone in our social circle, our friends, our neighbors, our country club, and Catherine's family, to inform them about the affair and to make sure they understood exactly who had been deceiving whom. The aftermath was swift and devastating for Catherine and Marcus, but incredibly satisfying for Jennifer and me. Catherine's family was horrified by her behavior, especially since they'd always liked me and considered me a stabilizing influence in her life. Her father, who had always treated me like the son he'd never had, was so disgusted by her affair that he cut her off financially and removed her from his will. Marcus's professional reputation was destroyed when word of the affair spread through his business network. Several of his clients dropped him, and his law firm asked him to take a leave of absence while they evaluated the situation. Our social circle, which had been built around the idea that we were two perfect couples, completely turned against Catherine and Marcus. They were disinvited from social events, dropped from charity boards, and essentially ostracized from the community they'd been part of for years. But the most satisfying aspect of my revenge was how it affected Catherine and Marcus's relationship with each other. The stress of being exposed, the financial pressure of their divorces, and the social isolation they faced put enormous strain on their affair. Without the excitement of secrecy and the thrill of deception, their relationship quickly deteriorated into blame and resentment. Marcus blamed Catherine for being careless with evidence and for not covering their tracks better. Catherine blamed Marcus for not being strong enough to handle the consequences of their choices. Within 3 months of being exposed, they had broken up and were no longer speaking to each other. 6 months later, I'm living a much happier and more authentic life than I ever had with Catherine. The divorce proceedings went exactly as I'd planned. Because I had documented Catherine's financial manipulations and her plans to defraud me, I was able to protect my assets and ensure that she received only what she was legally entitled to under our prenuptial agreement. Because I had evidence of her adultery, I was able to avoid paying alimony despite her attempts to claim that she deserved ongoing financial support. More importantly, the experience taught me valuable lessons about trust, authenticity, and the importance of surrounding myself with people who share my values. Catherine's betrayal was devastating, but it also freed me from a relationship that was built on lies and performance rather than genuine love and respect. Jennifer and I have become close friends as we've both navigated our divorces and rebuilt our lives. We've supported each other through the legal proceedings, the social awkwardness, and the emotional recovery from being betrayed by people we trusted completely. The most satisfying aspect of this experience wasn't the legal victories or the social consequences for Catherine and Marcus. It was the demonstration that deception and manipulation ultimately destroy themselves. Catherine and Marcus thought they could build a relationship on the foundation of lies and betrayal, but they discovered that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. My revenge wasn't about destroying Catherine's life or seeking personal satisfaction from her punishment. It was about protecting myself from further manipulation, ensuring that she faced appropriate consequences for her choices, and demonstrating that actions have consequences even when people think they can avoid them. The investigation I conducted into Catherine's affair wasn't just about gathering evidence. It was about reclaiming my agency and refusing to be a victim of someone else's deception. By taking control of the situation and revealing the truth on my terms, I was able to protect myself and help Jennifer protect herself from further manipulation. Catherine thought she could exploit my trust and my love to build a new life with Marcus while leaving me to deal with the emotional and financial consequences of her choices. But she had fundamentally misunderstood what it means to be in a real partnership with someone who values honesty and integrity. The perfect husband she thought she was deceiving turned out to be someone who was capable of protecting himself and holding her accountable for her actions. The boring, predictable man she thought she could manipulate turned out to be someone who understood exactly how to use her own deception against her. In the end, Catherine learned that you can exploit trust temporarily, but you can't build a sustainable relationship on the foundation of someone else's pain. The marriage she destroyed was built on genuine love and commitment, and when she chose to betray that foundation, she lost everything that had made her life stable and secure. The perfect husband had delivered the perfect revenge. The truth, revealed at exactly the right moment to ensure maximum consequences for those who had chosen deception over honesty. Sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't violence or manipulation. It's simply refusing to be a victim and insisting that people face the consequences of their choices.